to be here with you today to celebrate this distinguished profession of ours. Alex has said quite a lot, including where I met my wife, Lucy. She's an engineer on her own right, chemical engineer though. But it is true that engineers are the engine of development. And every success through history that has been celebrated has been at the hand of engineers. Since 2008, when KENHA was established as an institution, we have prided ourselves in providing quality, safe, and adequate roads that connects between regions and between major urban centers. Ladies and gentlemen, out of Kenya's total road network of 1,602,000, KENHA manages 18,550 kilometers. However, out of the total traffic, the freight that is on our roads, 94% is on KENHA's road. Though, therefore, our network is short, it is indeed very critical for the good of this country. This year alone, or currently, KENHA is developing new or reconstruction of 3,400 kilometers valued at 1,177 billion Kenya shillings. I mean, that's a significant part of improving our network. In the next 2 years, we anticipate to develop an additional new roads of 1,600 kilometers through a total of 13 projects. You will be pleased to know that in the coming years, you will be able to drive all the way from Bagamoyo through to Kilifi within a very short time. Recently, by December this year, if you choose to go for your Christmas in the Masai Mara, you will drive all the way from Narok to Masai Mara Gate, a total of 84 kilometers. Through the effort of KENHA, some of the most disturbing parts of our network, the Salga, which for a long time has been an accident spot, has now been resolved, and we have seen drastic reduction in the number of accidents in that section. The road between Narok and Nakuru will, by June of next year, be open to traffic. We will cut the connection between the two towns by more than 100 kilometers. Previously, commuters on that road had to go all the way to Kerisho or come back to Mai Mahiu to reach Nakuru. We are not opening an important and rich agricultural area, but also reducing the travel time. Mr. Chairman, we are also doing quite a bit of construction, opening the northern and eastern part of Kenya. Currently, KENHA is doing a central corridor from Nyahururu through Marar to Marishpas, and eventually joining at Lokishal, which will provide us with an alternative route for which to reach that part of the country. Additionally, we are working on the Lamu, Garissa, Isiolo, and Lokcha route, giving us even a third route to reach the northern part of Kenya. Besides, we are working currently on the road that comes from Isiolo through to Wajir and eventually to Elwak and Madera. I think through these projects and others, just mention a few, you will agree with me that we are contributing in a big way to the opening of the potential of the whole of this country. Mr. Chairman, allow me to appreciate the contribution of the IEK to the board of KENHA. My predecessor, Engineer Mwongera, led for a period of 4 years, and he is part of those that we celebrate for the success of KENHA. We appreciate IEK for that. And just today, we have the good news of the appointment of Engineer Kari Orege to the board of Kenha, another distinguished expertise to our board. We celebrate and join me in congratulating Engineer Orege on his appointment. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenha is a destination of many engineers. We are one of the biggest employers of engineers in this country. But not only that, we are conscious of the need to mentor and train more youthful persons to the engineering profession. This financial year alone, we have provided training to 250 young engineers, and we will continue to do that. Also notable is the fact that we continue to encourage the female engineers, and in fact, almost half, if not more, of our new recruits in engineering are actually female engineers. Not only do we believe in young people, we also believe in our entire population and their need to play their rightful role in the development of this country. I want to assure you that Kenha will continue to do that because, and I can tell you, we have seen tremendous contribution from all our engineering professionals. Chairman, Kenha is not only constructing the pavement, but we are committed to increasing the pleasure and the convenience and the safety of our drivers. Not only are we providing paved services, but you will notice as you go across the country that through our performance-based contracts, we have improved all our corridors. We have marked nearly all our roads, we have provided with boundary markers so that Kenyans are no longer in doubt. One of our biggest costs has been the level of encroachment of private construction to our roads, and it has been very expensive. So we have taken the initiative to demarcate clearly what is public assets, and besides that, you go anywhere in any corridor in this country, you see a very clear path. We will be in the next few months continue that, improving on the road markings, improving on the road signage, and we are committed to do this across all the 18,000 kilometers of road that we are managing. The PPC contracts is also a way for us to grow young and small contractors through the various range of contract sizes from 10 million shillings to 300 and more. We give opportunities for contractors who are not able to participate in the big contracts to continue growing, and we believe that in the coming few years, they should be able to compete on an equal footing with any other international bidder in this country. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, Kenha, like every other part of government, we are concerned that we should be able to put money in Kenya's pocket. Through our contracts, we are taking a deliberate effort to increase the local content in all our contracts, be it for services or for construction. This is a deliberate effort that the board is making in order to support the president and the government in increasing the local content in our country. You are all aware that one of the biggest challenges of our time is the climate change. The erratic nature of our weather, climate. We have seen more extraordinary rainfalls coming through a very short time. Just last week, we saw the destruction of the road in West Pokot and the failure of the bridge. That was yesterday, I think. And these are challenges that engineers must face head on. We, Kenha, and I'm sure every other agency in government, depend on these engines of growth to provide us with solutions to the emerging challenges of our modern times. Among these is the fact that urbanization now is a major part of our economy. Whereas on the one hand, it's a good thing, it concentrates consumption, it also puts a tremendous strain on our infrastructure. I think it's estimated that out of the 1 million people, that population increase in Kenya, 500,000 of these are going to urban areas, oftentimes in areas that are not very well endowed with infrastructure. That has continued to put a lot of strain on our roads. You will be pleased to know that Kenya is about to complete the last of the bypasses, the western bypass, connecting the town, Nairobi, from Gitaru through to Twin River, and therefore, by the time we are done that in the next 1.5 years, we will have completed all the 4 bypasses, and therefore increasing the convenience and also reducing the congestion that is inside town. We are aware that a number of towns as well have the challenge of congestion. Nakuru, in Narok, I think Eldoret, the bypass is about to be completed, and therefore Kenya will continue to provide alternative routes for motorists passing through our urban centers to increase convenience. Thinking of climate change, we would like to urge the engineers to also be innovative. As we constructed the road from Narok to Masai Mara, whereas it was not necessarily part of the contract, Kenya has managed to do more than 100 water plants, contributing to 4 million cubic meters of water storage. I think it's a beautiful way that tells us how we can combine our sourcing of material or borrow pits with construction of the road, and therefore leave a sustainable and a beneficial environment for our communities. I urge all of us to consider the new techniques, the new knowledge, and incorporate it in our projects. Mr. President, the foundation of engineering is in integrity and competence. Unfortunately, we at Kenya have continued to see, in some instances, cases where people submit to us documents that are not authentic. And in so doing, they soil the name of very, very many committed and good engineers. We urge that you, together with us, help us to maintain the ethics, and we at Kenya will be happy to come to you, to collaborate with you, to ensure that the nobleness of our profession is not only maintained, but also increased. Allow me now to turn to the core subject of our dinner today. And as you're aware, is that increasingly, public resources are becoming constrained. They're just not enough to meet the demands of our growing population. And there is therefore need for us to leverage on additional resources guided by the 2013 Public-Private, the PPP Act. In the recent past, the government did earmark 4 corridors for consideration under PPP development. This included the Nairobi, Nakuru, Mau Summit Highway, the Nairobi Mombasa Expressway, the Nairobi Thika Superhighway under operation and maintenance, and the Nairobi Southern Bypass. And one of the most important corridor is a corridor that connects Mombasa to Malaba. We know that this corridor conducts 85% of all the cargo that reaches the landlocked countries of Uganda, Burundi, Rwanda, and Congo, DRC. And several attempts, of course, since 2011 has been made to improve this corridor. In 2011, under the Nairobi Urban Toll Concession Project, the government reached a process where we had identified a contractor, but through a fault that's not government's, this could not continue. In 2013, under the New Trip project, again, an attempt was made, and luckily, we managed to secure funding to develop the ongoing section of the road between James Gishuru and Rironi. In 2014, the government further approached AFDB to support the development of the JKIA Likoni and Likoni to Rironi section of the road. Unfortunately, this did not materialize. So this in mind, we have initiated 3 PPP processes, 2 of which have reached a commercial closer stage. And one of them is the Nairobi Expressway, which the groundbreaking was done by the President about 1.5 months ago. And the second is the Rironi to Mau Summit, which we hope to have on site by mid of next year. Through these projects, we are hoping to increase or to generate new employment opportunities for enterprises and directly into the projects. The projection is that we should be able to generate 2,500 new enterprises through the implementation of these projects. Ladies and gentlemen, the Nairobi Expressway is the first major project undertaken under PPP. It is formulated by a concessionaire or the China Roads and Bridge Corporation, and they will build, design, finance, maintain, and thereafter transfer to government at the end of the 30 years. The cost of this project, with exception of land acquisition and the relocation of essential services, is fully borne by the contractor. I think going forward, we will be, as engineers, challenged to think of new ways in which we increase our level of infrastructure. We know the urgent need under Namata to build and operate the BRT system on all the major roads, Mombasa Road, Thika Road, and also the road going towards Rironi. We need to relocate and remove, public transport, reduce congestion by having bus holding terminals outside town. We need to have holding stations for trucks outside town, and all these will require more resources than we have now. Allow me, therefore, to urge all of us, and to urge particularly the engineers, to consider, and we are open at KENHA to discuss what other ways can we develop innovative finances that accelerates the pace of our development. The Nairobi Expressway, in particular, will be an important learning process for us, and that's why we are happy here as KENHA to come discuss with you and not only get your feedback, but also give you, the history and the rationale behind where we are. And with those few remarks, Chairman, I want to thank you very much for allowing KENHA to be able to have this opportunity to share with the engineers. We look forward to interacting with you many more times going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much for that enlightening speech about KENHA and what you are doing at KENHA and how it will help this country progress. I think at this juncture, I don't want to take much time. Engineer Peter Mudinja, my good friend, the hard part now comes. Please come and give a presentation, and then we can have an interactive session, after which we can call it a night. Thank you very much. Please welcome.
Good evening, or is good night. Good night to mean that we leave and go. So good evening. Mr. President, Engineer Collins Gordon Juma, IEK Council, present, the Chairman of KENHA Board, EBK Board and Management who are here, fellow engineers, ladies and gentlemen. I think before I get to real business, allow me to possibly introduce a few of our colleagues who are with us here. And I will start from the management, because the board of directors, the director who was present has already been introduced by my chairman. So I will seek that management of KENHA, wherever they are, they start, or the management and staff, so that we can be able to recognize them. Thank you. Secondly, I also want to, from the same people that have stood, I want to recognize the people who have been working on PPP, particularly because I know there will be Q&A, and these are the people who are going to come to my rescue. Can you start? It appears he's all alone, but he is more than 10 guys. Thank you. Allow me also to recognize, as you heard, the chairman talked about CRBC, and they are here with us. It is only fair that we can be able to recognize them, and they are seated on the other side. Can we recognize you? These are our consultants and contractors at the same time. I also want to recognize young students from University of Nairobi who came to join us, who led by Caleb Dongu. Where are they? They should start. Thank you. So I think with that, then I would want to first of all thank IEK, because if it was not for IEK, we would not be here. They have actually done us proud to actually put together all these numbers of engineers who then can be able to engage with us and be able to understand exactly what we are doing for this city of Nairobi. I think the contribution that IEK has done to almost all of us is immense, in that they have always been, they have been organizing seminars of some kind, and this is not exceptional. I remember just the other day we had the IEK conference, international conference in Mombasa. And I was meant to come. Unfortunately, I didn't make it because I had gone to Korea for another presentation of some what we are doing in Kenya. So, but I know, and I was informed that good presentation from our organization, or from our authority, was actually made. So, KENHA is your institution, just like IEK is your institution. So I think we need to go to the real matter of today, and the only way to go through it is through a presentation, so that now from the presentation you can also be able to ask questions and possibly clarifications. If you look at the Kenya as a country, you'll see a road that is passing through from Cape Town to Cairo. That is what we call Great North Road. You also see another one that is starting from Mombasa going west, Mombasa to Yaoundé, and also to Lagos. So that is what we call Northern Corridor. And it is important that we appreciate that all these corridors don't just serve ourselves, but they serve even other regions. What you see there are 9 corridors, and you can see from number 1, which starts from Cairo all the way to Dakar. And where you are seeing some dots, then that area is not paved. But most of it, as you can see in Africa, and especially through Congo, because most of it passes through Congo, is not paved. So there's a challenge within Africa to actually deal with that. Another corridor which is not there, and which has actually been approved by African Union, is the Lapsset Corridor. Lapsset Corridor starts from Lamu, just not very far from Mombasa on the coastline, goes through, and that is what Chairman was mentioning, going through Garissa, then to Isiolo. One branch goes to Moyale, the other branch goes to Lokisha, through Lodwar up to Nakodok. So I think with that then you can see where we are placed, and the project in question actually carries the two of them. Because what happens is that the Northern Corridor joins Great North Road at Athi River. And they come to separate in the city of Nairobi, so that the Great North Road can now go through Thika, while the other one goes through Nakuru. So you can imagine now that section between the river to Nairobi have a lot of traffic, because no wonder the two joins and they become one at that point. Having said that, also I want to also very, very briefly talk about our network. And our network, like it was mentioned, is 18,549, out of which only 10,000 is paved. So basically, you can see there's still a lot of work to do. And as we think about paving the roads that have not been paved, we're also thinking about decongesting the ones that are already paved. For example, the project in question. So the project we are talking about is classified as A8, and it forms part of the Northern Corridor, which runs from Mombasa to Nairobi up to Maraba. And as I mentioned, it still carries the Great North Road between the river to the town. So it carries all the eastern and central region. And as you know, this corridor is so important that it has been identified in the past as one of the very important corridors to be improved. And World Bank and ADB has been with us, and they have been keen to assist us. And as Chairman mentioned, part of what is actually being carried out between James Gichoro and Inoni was funded by World Bank. There has been several initiatives to actually work on this corridor, because it's quite an important corridor. And as you are aware, we have the SGR, which first of all came from Mombasa to Nairobi. And then, of course, the second one has recently been commissioned, Nairobi to Suswa. The government is working towards making sure, beside passenger transport between Nairobi and Suswa, also freight movement can also be attained. But what we are doing now is to ensure that we do the ICD at Suswa. There's also the commuter which actually serves from Syokimau station to Nairobi, and actually integrates very well with the SGL, because people, when they alight at SGL, they are able to get to Nairobi city through the meter gauge. But more so, there are other initiatives to actually do a commuter rail to also pass through JKA. So several projects have been done around the Northern Corridor, just to mention, and you can see most of it has been finished, Majiachumbi, Bachuma Gate. And right now from Mombasa, we are working between Mombasa to Mariakani. The section between Mombasa to Kwajomfu, already contractors on the ground. We are posting about 70% completion. And this is photos of some of what has been completed. Like you can see, we have the Gong interchange, and we also have the River Machakos, the connection which has already been done. This is part of what we are mentioning about what has been completed on Northern Corridor. And basically, what I'm trying to do before we get to the real work is to say that this is part of a major study that has been done on our corridor to ensure that at least the entire corridor can be able to give us a service. Now coming to Nairobi Expressway section, it's 27 kilometers from Mororongo through town to James Gishuru. And we need to improve the road by actually introducing the elevated portion and also the expressway in the median. As we shall see later, there are areas that we have enough corridor, and therefore we don't need to lift up the road. Besides that, we also want to do BRT, and that road is a BRT line 1. It was nicknamed Dofu because I think it carries very, very big traffic, a lot of traffic. You mentioned about those other issues to do with our colleagues in KRC. And most important also is that there is a lot of congestion, especially after the meter gauge and the standard gauge railway and the ICD. There's a lot of cargo moving in and out of the SGR. And therefore, this needs to do a lot of work around the Bakassi and industrial area to ensure that at least in this project that we are talking about, we are able to improve the entire section in terms of congestion. These are kind of the congestion that we used to have some time back. You can see the road was equally not very good until it was resurfaced and extended to 3 lanes. That was sometimes 2012 when it was expanded. And maybe the population growth of Nairobi should explain why there is need for all this investment we are doing. As you can see, going back to 1950, there was a gradual increase, very small increase of population in Nairobi. But you can see now, coming to 2010, it has taken another curve. So really, a lot of investment is actually required in the cities. And it was mentioned by my chairman that out of 1 million that actually it comes into world today, because women are still doing what they need to do, equally men are doing what they need to do. So we are producing, and therefore, as we bring in 1 million people, 500 gets to town, 500 gets to the road, and the road is wide. So you can imagine now 500 being constrained in a small area, and that is the kind of growth that we see. So, what is going to be the contribution of this? International Airport. And just recently, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport was upgraded to a Category 1, meaning that it can, any flight can originate from anywhere and land here, and also from here to any other place. So it means then it actually has acquired the real meaning of being a hub, because as long as some flights cannot reach your country, or they cannot start from a country and go elsewhere, then you cannot say that you have a hub. And therefore, for it to actually be an international hub, then it is important that people can be able to get in and get out of the airport and to town and elsewhere with ease. We also need to make sure that Nairobi people are also productive, because if you spend 1 hour, 2 hours on that section of the road, which is 115 to town, 15 kilometers to town, then you can imagine what it means. Maybe you have spent maybe 45 minutes from Mombasa, only to spend another hour when you have reached Nairobi. So, besides that, as I mentioned, we need also to clear issues to do with the Bakassi area logistics zone, ICD, and SGR terminal, and meter gauge also. We also know that there are fast-growing residential, commercial, industrial areas, you know it, and also another industrial area that is coming up in Mororongo and Syokimau, the river, and those are the areas that have already been identified as areas that have potential or have land to be able to put the low-cost housing that our sister company, our sister department is working on, that is the Department of Housing. And it's important that even whatever you do, we must make sure that it is geared towards meeting the Big Four agenda that the government has. So, besides that also, as I mentioned, this is also going to make sure that at least you will have very good experience as you pass through the city. We have done many things, especially with around the city, and it was mentioned that soon we are completing the almost what we can call the first link road of Nairobi. But even as we complete that, you also are aware that Eastern and Northern bypass require to be expanded. So really, we need to do much more than even just the Western bypass. So despite all this, at least we have not been able to sort out the congestion through the city, and therefore need to work on that. What is the rationale? There are studies that we did which comprises travel demand. And we are able to actually see where people are originating and coming through town, and therefore there was need to ensure that this is actually done. There is also the whole issue of accidents. When the road is congested, people are trying to really try all they know about driving to pass through. And this actually brings about loss of life, injuries, disabilities, air pollution. Of course, you know when vehicles are idle or moving slowly at very high gears, they actually produce more. And when we are talking about environment, that is a thing that we need to think about. So with Namata, we are working on BRT, and as we continue with the expressway, on the other side, we also we are working very, very hard to ensure that at least we come up with the BRT to almost finish at the same time. Chairman mentioned, and I don't want to go back, that this effort has been done before, so I don't want to get there. And then, I think what I can say is that PPP law, which was enacted in 2013, allows that the client or the contracting authority can go to tender, advertise, and when they advertise, you can get contractors then or consortium, then you can be able to take up what you want done. All that you need is to actually do a feasibility study and make sure at least you package your project very well so that you can go to the market. On the other hand, also, you can also get a person who actually appreciates that there's an opportunity around. And as we mentioned, and I think either the chairman or secretary or the president was talking about engineers being people who solve problems. And I think even our colleague from the Fourth Estate also mentioned that engineers are known to solve problems. And because he is one of the people who solves problems, he called himself an engineer, and I agree. Because there's something that he does which makes things different. So there's an opportunity for somebody to actually pick an opportunity, and you do what we call privately initiated investment proposal. And this is how this project has come about, that CRBC was able to appreciate that there's an opportunity in this area. And as we were working with the World Bank and also ADB, they were able to come in, and that was last year in September, and said then they can be able to come in to be able to do this project. CRBC, I can say, because I have been able to see what they are running today in Beijing. The Beijing airport to the city of Beijing, it is CRBC who did that project, and they are running it on concession matters, and therefore we believe this is even a smaller project for them. They can be able to do that, and therefore when they approached us in December 2018, then we told them, okay, give us a proposal, which they gave in March, and we also took it to PPP committee, and they are able to actually look at the concept, and they agreed with it. And recently, just last month, we were able to get to commercial agreement, and on 16th of last month, it was launched. So, when we do this kind of projects, because they are big projects, we must also ask ourselves, are we getting value for money? And therefore, there's need to do what we call public comparator. You need to find out if you did it differently, other than doing it through PPP, would it make any better value? And looking at what we have been doing in terms of roads that are on road bed, we are seeing this contract being about 32% below the cost that we encounter within this region of Nairobi and the neighborhood. At the same time also, where we are doing a elevated section of the road, that is because some of the section, as I mentioned, as you're going to see later, is actually the road reserve is not enough, and we didn't want to actually spend a lot of resources in getting more land. We have also been able to check on that, and even checking with the other areas of where these projects have happened. But specifically in Kenya, we are seeing that this project is 40% lower than the open tendered, and therefore the value for money for the same is actually going to be achieved. Like I mentioned earlier, we have done all the studies, origin and destination survey, review of the existing and past development plans, because we had, like I mentioned, we had a plan already. It's only that by the time World Bank was coming in, the resources that were available were only to do James Geshuru to Rironi. Otherwise, we would have started everything together. And therefore, we had to review that and see. The other thing that we had to do was that we needed to find out, are people willing to pay? And then the second question was that, okay, if you're willing to pay, how much? And as you shall see, all these things are things that we were able to do, and are able to find out exactly what that meant. So that graph shows the points at which we have done studies of ADT, the vehicles that are passing through junctions, and you can see they vary. So we had to take the average, which then would assist us now plan for what we needed to do, or to even interrogate what the proponent, that is the CRB, had brought. So this is a part of the traffic studies. I don't want to get into details. I think maybe even though we are talking of engineers in this house, we also talked about that engineer who was schooling with my chairman. And there are many others who are either in the other disciplines, so we don't want to go to very many details. So with this kind of traffic, as you can see, we took the average, which is about 25,000 vehicles per day. The section itself has about 77,000 vehicles per day on average. So we took that, and we expect that third, or 18% or 23% can be able to be picked by the two lanes that we are proposing. So this is the way you actually find out exactly how many lanes you need where, and so that then you can be able to plan. Now let's go to social issues, and these are very critical in that, supposing you do the road and nobody is available to come and get into it. If you look at the pie chart there, it shows that 61% were willing to pay, and 39% were not willing to pay at all. And then the second, which has bar chart, also shows, even as they were talking about willing to pay, what were they willing, what is the amount that they're talking about? And you can see very clearly that people who would want to pay zero, I don't know whether when you have zero you are paying, up to 50, they were the majority. But all the same, there are others who are willing to pay between 50 and 100 shillings. So put together, of course, then you can see you have you have business you can do, isn't it? This business, and if only you can provide very good service. So then the whole issue of what are the tolls then? You know, we have seen what people are willing to pay, what kind of vehicles are we talking about, and how much would they be willing to pay? In this case, the study that we did some time back in 2015 had shown that, and that is the time where actually we were planning for Nairobi Nakuru Summit, and even Nairobi Mombasa Expressway, people are willing to pay 6 shillings per kilometer. That is the small vehicles, PCU, the small vehicle. Considering we are talking about 2015 and now we are in 2019, projected upwards, the amount that we are considering to charge on this one is translating to 11 shillings and 25 cents. And this is coming as a result of the fact that we are saying if you have to use the entire corridor from Mlolongo through Nairobi up to James Gishuru, you pay 300 for a small vehicle. If you exit anywhere in between, of course, you pay pro rata. So meaning that if you are going only for 10 kilometers out of it, or 9 kilometers for that matter, then you'll be able to pay only 100 shillings. So the design, as I mentioned, is going to be done in a manner that it is all inside the median at the center, and we expect the design speed to be 8 kilometers per hour. We are going to have 4 lanes, 2 lanes either side, and out of the 27, 11 kilometers are going to be raised, going to go through a fire duct, and 15.7 will be at the base. So this is how it will be like in terms of the central lanes, as you see them. This is where we are going to have the expressway, and you can see there is another one in just closer to the greenery. That is 2.5 meter lane, and is available to actually be utilized on an emergency basis. As you know, if you pass through Nairobi, I don't think we have been able to provide this emergency lane, so that if there's an ambulance, if there's a police, there's what, they can be able to use the 2.5 and be able to pass through. Then the outer ones are what exists today. We are not going to change much in terms of what exists today. All that we are doing, because it's 3 lanes, we are picking 1 lane and providing BRT on that lane. And as you can see bus and there's more vehicles on the side of the other 2 lanes. So in total, as you can see, we are talking of 10 lanes. But more important is that we are going to have two lanes of BRT on either side, and that is a very, very important game changer. When you're thinking about what that BRT will do, just like the express will take about 30%, we also are expecting like 30% would be picked by BRT alone of the traffic, because there's several matatus around there. So this is how it's going to be like, that from Mlolongo, we are going to have 4 lanes. I'm starting from light. I don't know whether is your right. Yeah? Is your right? Good. It could be your left. So you're starting from the light. That is where Mlolongo is. Up to JKIA is 4 lanes, and they are going to be on the ground. Reason being that we have enough road reserve, and you're not even buying any land there. Again, we can move all the way to Eastern Bypass, where we are going to make sure that we do a proper interchange there. But between Eastern Bypass and Southern Bypass, because of the fact that enough road is not available, and the fact that, again, there are 2 intersections, we are raising the road, and we are going to have 6 lanes. From there along, all the way, there's going to be 4 lanes up to ABC. So this is how it's going to be in areas where there's congestion. And as you can see, we are going to have the lanes for the normal traffic on the side. BRT at the same time is also going to be inside there. almost below the fire duct, and then the fire duct is going to be up, occurring the faults we have mentioned about. So I don't want to go in there, but I can say one thing, that we're going to have 10 interchanges, which will form entry and exit, and we shall have plazas, toll plazas on them. So this is more or less like a typical cross-section. I've already mentioned how that will be. As you can see, we are talking about the inside lane or the inside corridor being the corridor for the expressway. And therefore, even as you do construction, we expect there are going to be very little interruptions as far as the traffic is concerned, because we are trying to do as much, we are going to confine ourselves at the middle, doing very little on the side. The only thing that possibly, and not possibly too, will certainly bring in a bit of disruption is when we bring in the issue of BRT, because we don't want to do the works, complete the works, and then come again at the open. We want them, as they break the ground, 6 months down the line, we are working towards seeing how we can come and catch up with the BRT. So these are the interchanges. The first one being Mororongo. I think those of you who, most of you actually know Mororongo. Just as you are trying to climb up to Mororongo, that is where it is going to start. And around that area, just be ahead of it, you know, we have a weighbridge, and therefore the heavy truck will be excluded to enter into the expressway at that point. But if they so wish to enter anywhere else, they can. But for sure, as you know, trucks, you know, 20 minutes or 30 minutes does not mean much in terms of their saving, because they are making very long journeys. So we have another interchange at Mororongo. We have another interchange at SGR terminal. And all these actually are trying to take care of, say, for example, Mororongo. We know that there's going to be a lot of investment on low-cost housing, and therefore there will be a lot of traffic that is going to be generated from there. There's a lot of land there, and therefore, and even source of materials. So we are doing an interchange there. SGR is there. We're also doing an interchange. We are doing an interchange at JKA. Like I mentioned, we must make sure that we service our airport. Then on Eastern Bypass and Southern Bypass, we're also doing interchange. And the reason is that when we did studies, there's a lot of traffic that actually is generated from those two bypasses. Therefore, there's need for you to ensure that you do an interchange to allow the vehicles get in and get out of that. And then at Capital Center, just to make sure that South B, South C can be able to join the expressway. And then Hegosrasium, just to ensure that at least if you wanted to arrive in town, you have a way out or a way in. Then the next one is going to be at Museum Hill Roundabout. And at Museum Hill Roundabout, we're going to have to go to the third level, because we are at second level now. We shall go to the third level, and we shall ensure that at least even though we are in that level, we can also be able to join the existing roads to Thika and also to the other side. Then the mall. Recently, something happened at the Westlands. You remember there's some barriers that we had put, and when people finished and did the Westland Ring Road, they thought, yes, we can now open the road so that vehicles can move, and there was serious congestion. And in fact, that explains then we had not gotten it wrong to actually to say that there should be a junction there, an interchange, to ensure that that is sorted out. Then finally, at James Gishuru, you know, our sister authority, Kura, has done the link road from James Gishuru to Red Hill, but at least getting through there is a big issue. And even what we are doing from James Gishuru to Rironi had not incorporated that design. So this is supposed to also incorporate that. I've taken time to talk about this because I know this is what many people may want to know. How is it going to serve me if I'm in a hurry, if I want to use it, if I possibly don't want to use the other, which is also going to be efficient. How is it going to be efficient? If for any reason you have removed 30%, which will go now on the expressway, you remove another 20 to 30% through bus rapid transit system, then the existing road is going to be very efficient. So there's no, you have a choice. You'll be spoiled of choice. You can go with the bus, you can go with this, you can go with that. And I think that is the way we should actually have. This is the way it is going to be at Museum Hill. As you can see, the Museum Hill as it exists is one level, but now, as I mentioned, we are going to make it, we are going to create another level. So let's go to what is the cost implication. The construction alone is going to be about 60 billion or 62 billion with the current exchange rate. And then this money is assumed or is borrowed, and therefore we expect a long-term debt repayment interest of 300 million US dollars, or Kenyan shilling, that billion. Then there's operation and maintenance for the period of the 30 years we mentioned, which is approximately 400 million US dollars, or 40 billion. So that is the kind of monies we're talking about. And then what is the support then of the government in terms of all this? The government is only supposed to provide the right of way. And this right of way is coming in the form of getting land, adequate land, to take care of what we have mentioned. There are areas we need intersections, and therefore we need land to make sure that we do intersections which can serve. On the corridor we have services that are actually landing on it. One of them is water. Water is actually landing at the median. And that is why we are going to have the expressway. We need to relocate. There's power. There is almost 15 or more service providers of ICT data. All those must be moved. And the cost that we have found, the cost that government is going to meet is about 8 billion, which would take 4.2 billion for land and 3.8 for the services. Then there's a whole issue of, when you're talking of the cost, what is this other thing that government is also going to forfeit? And one of the things that government is going to forfeit in terms of, this thing is, I think we have lost lost one slide, the one that I was explaining. Basically, it's there. What we are saying is that government will also, to make this project affordable and bankable, then during construction period, we expect that government look into ways of waiving VAT, custom duty, withholding tax, all these taxes that are meant to reduce the cost, so that the cost can now lie at the figures I mentioned. At the same time also, during operations, we expect that the users of the road should be the one to meet the VAT. But we are seeking that the government also reduce or remove the VAT, so that people will only pay for that service without paying for the VAT. So what are these benefits? I don't want to repeat. I think this one I mentioned earlier, that we are going to reclaim our position as a hub, and we're also going to clear the ICD and industrial area congestion that we see today. We are also going to save on the resources that we actually expend in the jam. The business and environment during construction, as we see it, is going to create 3,000 jobs. And during operations and maintenance, which is 30 years, we are going to have 500 jobs being created. We expect that we're going to have direct transfer of technology, that our people are going to be part and parcel of this work, starting from even preparation. Now we are where we are saying we are prepared, and we are actually, our people have been involved in all this. And this is actually one of the, I think somebody should be able to look at this. Something is wrong. IT people. This one here. So, you have the other mic. So I was saying that this is a very big component of our FDI. 60 billion is not just money. Come within a state of Nairobi, and it's for 3 years. When you are having conversation with a contractor, and His Excellency the President also wanted to see to it that it's done quickly, they were able to commit themselves and say that they can be able to do it in 2 years. So you can imagine, if you're talking of 60 billion to be expended within this economy in 2 years, then of course there will be a lot of impact. These horses are now realized we should bring that in the big for agenda eventually to make sure at least we are able to ensure that Morongo, Abuliva, Kitengela, Mosa City, all these areas can be looking at for business. Most important also is that through the payment that is going to be done by the contractor or the consultant, we are going to realize around 30 billion shillings. During the time. This is not going to be, it's meant to be 360, not 3.6. It's meant to be 360 USD. That 360 million US dollars. It's not 3.6. So we are going to realize about 360 million 360 million US dollars, which is equivalent to $30 billion as a corporate tax that is going to be paid. And like I mentioned, it's also going to create competitiveness. As you know, countries survive by making sure that they are competitive. So we need to realize that. And individual people are going to make savings. We are also going to reduce on carbon emission by doing that. And like you can see, if the place is congested, the way you see, there will be a lot of carbon emission, and therefore, by actually ensuring the vehicles are moving fast enough, that reduces the emission. So, important also, and I mentioned, is the emergency lane that is going to be put up. The other lanes, ITZ, So these are the benefits we're talking about, and I don't want to go through all of them, but really important is that business opportunities for all supply chain. Here we have engineers who are contractors, who are consultants, who are suppliers, and even other people who are friends of engineers are there, and we expect that they're going to realize a lot of opportunities. All these opportunities are also going to be realized. And the other issue that we need to talk about is the environment, and how is it affecting the environment. We are only thinking about 5 hectares, acres, not hectares, out of which 60% of it is coming from government or public, and therefore very little cost really, because government don't pay their own. The only thing that can happen in some areas, if you are to actually relocate a building, because there's a building that you relocate. But fortunately for where we are passing, we don't even have that. We are only going to take 20% from private land. And as I mentioned earlier, all that is coming to about 4.3 billion. We have tried to make sure that at least in some cases, instead of having up level, the toll plazas, some of the toll plazas, especially as I was starting, are going to be lifted out. So that at least you can, before you need to pay again, so that you minimize on the land uptake. We also want to make sure that at least during construction, there should be minimal disruption of traffic So far, we are still engaging with the various people, and especially because the design we are done with the World Bank and also with the ADB had to do with the section between JKA to Chams. There's a section of 8 kilometers from JKA moving backward to Mororongo. So we still are doing that, basically to ensure that at least we everybody is taken on board. And this is part of engagement that we need to do so that at least we can be able to get everybody understand exactly what we're doing and what we expect. So the project was already launched, that was on 15th, and we expect that the contractor has started a bit of work on the ground. We expect full construction to actually start in January. Because even as of now, final designs are actually being done. As it were, this is a PPP project. We cannot be able to do final detail design before the award is given. Now that we signed the commercial agreement on the 15th of October, then they now have started on final designs. So we expect it to take 3 years for construction, but the entire project is 30 years, so 27 will be for operations and maintenance. And as I mentioned, already they have started their works, and it's continuing on with them. So we expect as they operate, they should be able to recoup the investment through the tolling regime that talked about how much the amount they pay. I mentioned about that, around the study we have done earlier, and what we expect them to start doing today, or much instead of the 6 we did 5 years back, we're talking about utilization and devices. So in conclusion, we are saying that the expressway is going to be a game changer in this city of Nairobi, because it's going to bring in a different experience in terms of the way traffic is going to move from the eastern side to the western side of the city. And we expect that it's going to really bring in a lot of advantages, which I mentioned earlier, in terms of employment, and in terms of transfer and the technological transfer, training. All these are benefits that we're going to realize. I think we want to stop there and ensure that we get more fight for engagement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, DG. I think my task ends here, and I can't see Alex Chamwada, and someone will have to step in for him, and that should be the secretary, because beyond here ni kazi ya mkono. And I believe that Engineer Matalanga, you want to come and organize the stage. I don't know whether you want to put seats for the panelists, but you'll do it your way. Can I ask you to give a round of applause for the chairman and the DG? And also for ourselves for listening. And up from here, I think you can pick it and we proceed.
Thank you very much, DG, Peter. And if I ask you a question, Professor Mwea is there, he's not going to mark our script. So don't worry, it is because I don't know. And Professor, I don't think I'm asking a stupid question. You mark me down also. I'll just be honest. So Alex, I don't know how we shall do it because we need to do it in an organized way where we can get feedback. It's supposed to be an interactive question where people will ask some questions. Do you want us to put some chairs here so the panel can come? I will ask for your assistance. DG, which is the... Do you think it's better, DG, you come to the front so the people going to help us, they can come to the front? We have some chairs here. And Engineer Imelda, you're going to be in charge of this next session. Where do we keep this?
And on YouTube, if you can monitor the live YouTube, there are people asking questions and commenting. So we also have participants from outside this building who are participating and watching live.
We need another chair for the...
We need Engineer Margaret and Imelda. And you are live so that
interchanging. We'll just be giving each other.
I will hand over to the panelists, lead us through the next session, and guide us how they want to do it. So ladies and gentlemen, I've already introduced Engineer Imelda Obiambo. She's the second vice president of the IEK. Of course, Engineer Margaret Ogai, vice chair of the functions committee and chair of the WAVE. Karibu sana. On here we have Engineer DG, Engineer Peter Modiria, Engineer David Muchilwa, David Chopin, Engineer Stanley Mawasi, and I work with Stanley to ensure that the function went okay, and Engineer Samuel Omera. Okay. Thank you. So I will let you continue.
The chairman of Kenya, Director General, our president, fellow engineers, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to this interactive session. We would have chosen to have maybe the digital way, but we want to have it as human as possible so that we interact. We are not robots, so we interact that way. And we want to assure you that when you ask your questions, you will be assured of immunity. Nobody will penalize you outside here because really you say something that is not ranting to your bosses here or something. So we would expect questions from the floor, questions that are related to half full, the engineering ×2, but not the half empty ones. Having said that, maybe I would also ask my chair of the interactive session to say some few words, then we'll from there.
Thank you so much, moderator, and I'd like to appreciate our panel and thank the members for their patience up to now. And I'm here on the role to assist the chair to see you when you request questions. I will look their eyes. Thank you.
So, we will ask questions, and we request that when you are given an opportunity to ask a question, ask one or two questions. Don't go the way we sometimes go question 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. We limit the questions to 1 and 2. So we'll have the first 3 hands that will come up.
This one. Guide me. Okay.
The far end, I don't know that table, there is a white shirt, and there's also a lady here on this table. So I think share your hand.
Thank you very much, the moderators, for having identified me as the first person to speak. It is no doubt that the project is a very good project, as the way Engineer Mourinho has made the presentation. My question would be, in terms of local, my name is Engineer Mutichi Kamisi. My question would be, in terms of local content, you as the implementers, what clauses are being included in the contract to safeguard local content in terms of engineers who will be engaged in the project, in terms of subcontractors, and any other services that will be required? And how will it be implemented? Because we want to see a reality this year. If this project is going to be taken, we don't want to see theories just in the contract without implementation. Number 2, as you're presenting the design, I would want you to assure us, because I've seen the road overload section, which is quite long also.
Emergencies are attended to adequately without interfering with the traffic. And also the pay system, I would want us to come with a smart way of making the payments. Not what we see in the airport whereby you have to line for 20 minutes, 10 minutes to make payments. So we would want to have a smart way of payment between the sections. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Number 2, I just want to repeat, you limit yourself to 2 questions, 1 or 2.
Thank you. My name is Esther Segero. I'm a registered graduate engineer with both IBK and IEK. I am not opposed to the project. My question is there ways that we can maximize the potential for profit, both the infrastructure and in terms of the financial aspect of it? Because the project is funded by the contractor, and then he makes up an interest of about 30 billion. Is there a way to include Kenyans where we say about maybe 5% or 10% is funded by local individuals, Kenyans, and then they get to make some profit in the 17 years? Thank you. What's the third one?
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Omani Wycliffe. The first question that I had, engineer has already asked regarding the local content. We know there are I'm a registered graduate engineer. We know there are so many registered, or let's say graduate engineers, who are currently unemployed. And we know the Chinese are notorious for bringing in their own engineers and giving us the menial jobs. The second question is that when this project was being launched, we heard that the government of Kenya cannot implement any other project that endangers the profitability of this project. Could we be enlightened as to what exactly that means? Thank you.
My dear panelists, you can answer those three, then we can take the next set.
Thank you so much. I think those are very, very valid questions which have come from Engineer Butishi. Three of them actually. He talked about local content, emergency lane and how you can be able to get out or in and be able to move, and then payment system. How is it like? Is it electronic? Is it manual? I want to give that question to Mawasi. As I said from the beginning, that's why I told them, I recognize them, so that when it comes to this, then they can be able to carry the burden with me. The other one, which is from Esther Sigelo, she wants to know, she has seen that there is a profit, and she's wondering the local content into getting into the same project and earning resources. Maybe at some stage, you never know. They could be registered in the local, in the Nairobi Stock Exchange, you never know. Omel, you get that one. Then Momanyi Wycliffe has talked about being a graduate engineer, and he wants employment. He would want many of them to be employed. You remember I also stood a few of them who are seated the other side. One of them is my son. I want him to be employed as well. So why? And then of course there is a light for. What was this? There was another question she asked, and I think it has to do with the profit. You know, it has to do with the fact that in the contract we are not allowing, or he had that nothing else should be around, or any other investor should not be around to actually compete with that person. I will ask Mochirwa to answer that, and we can start here.
Thank you very much, DG. Non-compete clauses are standard in projects of this type. If you are putting in your $600 million or $60 billion, you need at least some kind of assurance that the government of the day may not maybe just come and put another competing facility and you lose your investment. So we do have basic provisions, but which are not going to prevent the government, for example, from putting BRT, or example for improving, for example, Jogo Road, or example for improving Kangundo Road. So these provisions, they are not restrictive, they're not binding, they're not preventing the government from doing other important projects in the vicinity. So I think, I don't know if I've answered the question. About the issue of employment, employment is mandatory. The NCA Act requires that there be a certain subcontracting. I think it is 30%. Yes. And the Procurement Act also requires that there be a provision for local content. This local content has been factored in to the contract in terms of, for example, cement, steel, and various inputs. I don't know if I've answered the question. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think he has answered that, and possibly just to add that what is this competition we are talking about? We are talking about the road that is meant to actually run from Mlolongo to Westlands. You are not supposed to provide another person to do a parallel road from the point A to point B, running parallel to the other one. However, you know, with time, the baby needs to increase the capacity of the same. And even if, before you bring in any other person, if you are to actually do that, then the opportunity is normally given to the person who is running the concession. So that is how it is done, and therefore that clause must be there so that tomorrow you don't bring in another facility which is going to compete directly with it. However, and he has mentioned, when it comes to BRT, which of course will take up traffic, that is not part of what is prohibited, or the commuter rail I mentioned, which are going to run parallel on the same corridor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I was going to respond to what Engineer Hamisi had put forward. The question of the local content, I think it has been ably answered. And the PA actually has clauses that provide for local labor up to a certain percent. Now, of course, the local inputs include, the labor includes various categories of employment, and I believe that there will be opportunities for local subcontracting, both at the consulting level and at contracting level. So those opportunities will be available. Number two, emergencies in the elevated section. As Ali alluded, along the corridor, the entire 27 kilometers, both sides, we're going to have 2.5 meter width emergency lane running on the two sides of the road, and this will be available for all emergencies, fire, ambulance, and also security purposes. Now, definitely in the corridor itself, also there would be, I want to believe, because the detailed design is ongoing, there will be fire hydrants to deal with such situations. And also the contract provides for the contractor maintaining emergency readiness for all kinds, including simple things like towing vehicles that are stalled on the carriageway, and therefore it is all the kind of emergencies that may arise, they have been catered for, and there's an adequate corridor that is available to respond speedily to the same. Regarding the tolling system, this has been looked for also carefully, and at concept stage, there is what we call the electronic tolling system that has been incorporated. And in addition to that, there will be also manual system, because the electronic system envisaged will involve having some cards put on the vehicle, and then there'll be readers as you pass through. Then it is read, and the amount billed accordingly. And this way, there will be minimal times that are spent processing time for the payment, thereby reducing the delays or the bottlenecks that may be introduced by the tolling system. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Institute. Mine is Engineer Samuel Omer, just to correct Nathaniel. We've gone around with you around the towns to the rural areas, and perhaps you know me with the other pet name, but when I'm here, officially I'm Engineer Omer. Yes, this is in relation to the question by Esther Sagero. It's a very good question, encouraging to see a question like this from some of our young engineers that shows that the quest for knowledge around PPPs is there within the membership of the Institute. And she asked a question that this project appears very rich in cash, And what measures have we put in place to make sure that where there's super profit, then some of those profits are plowed back to the economy and the beneficiaries can also get a piece of it. In concessions like this, we discuss clauses where we have agreed returns by the concessionaire. So we say if we invest in an economy like this with the risk profile that we know, we can benchmark the kind of risk profiles we know, then we can tie that to an agreed return. So when we agree on the return, if traffic, for example, increases and therefore you make super profits because you collect more tolls, what happens? There's a revenue share formula where that can be returned back to government. But remember that every asset has an ultimate capacity at some point where you need to upgrade it. And if we have running to capacity of this highway and we need to improve junctions, some of those profits will be put in a reserve account where they can be used to cross-subsidize other projects to improve, related projects to improve now, to enhance further capacity for this, which is to the benefit of all users. Then there's something we call minister's authority to, minister has the authority to allow toll increases. If we made toll in the past few years, toll profits in the past few years, and the indexing formula, which is tied to inflation, requires that the minister approves a toll increase. If we've got a lot of money in the reserve because we've generated super profit, then the minister can deny the toll increase, and that becomes a benefit to the users. Then there's something called the debt service reserve account, which the concessionaire must maintain. He has to have that amount available to the lender, so that if you have dry years, and in Kenya we'll always have the business cycle, up and down, up and down. There will be years when the concessionaire will not collect enough tolls. Then debt service reserve account will have those proceeds going there so that the project remains on its feet. Then I mentioned about cross-subsidies of other projects. We have the entire corridor, which we're also doing some tolling. And the other projects, some sections of the corridor do not have enough money to increase capacity. That cross-subsidy can also help to deal with the congestion issue around the corridor. Because you remember the DG presented this as an entire corridor solution. So we're not looking at this as one section. We've only taken one section which is most viable and we put it to the private sector to develop, help us develop. And we use it now to, if it generates enough revenue, to help us build the other section. So thank you very much. I hope that that answers your query. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam, for that elaborate exposition on how the structure of the PPP works, especially how the first mover projects are supposed to work, and in particular how the National Toll Fund is going to be funded and operated. All the tolls collected from the toll roads will be put in a fund, and then there'll be toll cross-subsidy availability payment cross-subsidies across the various toll roads that are going to come into place. However, for this particular road, the Nairobi Expressway, it is the first pure PPP project. What I mean by this is pure because the contractor or the developer is going to take 100% demand risk. That comes also with a risk on revenue. And therefore, in the agreement, when there's a downside, he has to take that hit. When there's an upside, also, he takes that hit. He celebrates. However, the way it is structured is that, as you noted, much as there are various tax subsidies that have been included both for during construction period that goes to the project company and during the operation period going to the users to make bankability on the implementation side and affordability on the users during the operation side. the corporate taxes, there's no exemption. So what that means is when there's an upside, our tax numbers, revenues from the tax go up. And when there is a downside, he's alone. We're not there. He takes the hit. So this way, the project company will absorb the risk when there is nothing, but at the same time, when there is something, we also celebrate together according to our tax laws. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let us have the next set of 3 questions, comments, or additions. Margaret.
Okay, I think I'll change the order. We will start with the middle row, then we will go that way and come back there. So over here, we will have, I can see we have our council is also very excited. We have 2 questions from this table, Engineer Matalanga and President. And yes, and we will take one, sorry, I think we will do one more round kindly, because I still have to go to the other. So those 2 for the middle, we have, sorry, gender now. So, oh yes, I'm so sorry. Engineer Christine, those are 3 questions. 1 question here, the gentleman, the table, yes, you know, yes. And now 1 more question on this side. I think next to, yes, I think this table, well, I hope you're seeing. Wave to me, the one, I'm pointing to you. Yes, you. Thank you. So we can start.
Okay. Thank you, Margaret, for giving me this opportunity. DG, I think I've taken more heat on this project than you, because I'm the father of the engineers. The idea, the way some people conceive the project is that it's supposed to decongest Nairobi. Majority here. Now they are not asking that question. When you leave, they'll ask me, but President, how does this thing decongest Nairobi? And I also started thinking the same way. If you are talking of Rironi to, from Lolongo to Rironi, who are these people who are moving from Lolongo and they are going to Rironi and they are not coming to the city center? And then how will it help the challenge that we have in this city every day, or people trying to get out of town or trying to get in town? I think maybe for the sake of the members, you can clarify that. Maybe it was just meant for the expressway anyway, but it was not supposed to decongest. I've also heard that there's some arrangement for what you call guaranteed payment for the concessionaire, so that he has the comfort that he'll collect his money, which is good anyway, because maybe someone has picked loan from some bank and he needs guaranteed payment. But assuming the chance is 1 over a million that the road might not pay itself, what happened in that scenario? I know it's a very rare chance, but it exists. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President. I couldn't ask my question before the President. That's why I had to give him the microphone. Mine was a comment. There's a student a graduate engineer who was worried about the behavior of the Chinese contractor. With the position we got at the World Federation of Engineering Organizations, the President, Konke, is from China, and one of my fellow executive council members, Romeo Lee, is also from China. And these are people who are very keen to ensure that their citizens working out of China behave. Therefore, Kenya, we have a direct contact with a member of is it called the KAIST? The member of the KAIST. And if your contractors continue behaving, we're going to raise this question at the highest level with the Chinese government. And for your information, China voted for us. And even Malaysia, the president of Malaysia was commanded by Dato' Lee, who was the presidential Kibaki advisor in the economic program. And he came to us and talked to the president and told us we support Africa. So Kenya, if there is any problem and IEK is made aware, we shall take this at the highest level.
I have a chance to ask the question, but out of respect for Professor Mwea, I saw his hand up, I'll give my chance to him.
Just to thank you for the very good presentation. I come from the University of Nairobi, as you all know. And the big road cuts the university into two. At the University of Nairobi junction at the St. Paul's and Lutheran, that roundabout, it takes about 20 minutes of policemen to stop the cars for the communists to pass. It also takes another 20 minutes for somebody going to Chiromo to collect an examination. Now you know where the examination is stored. To cross the road, and that time the communists are waiting for the examination. So, is there anything being done for us as stakeholders at the university? And the third question, we were going to ask two questions. I'll ask the third question. There is silence about non-motorized transport, NMT, silence. We are having behind your hands, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hands. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can I count 10 lanes? And then the elephant in the house, the elevated section. How are you going to cross it? Yeah, it's been silent about NMTs. Yeah, you can answer.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mukwaya George. I'm quite old in this industry. I'm an associate and a member. And I just want to ask something. While as much as I do understand and I appreciate the program, it's quite wonderful. I want to actually commend Kenha for the good work. But you have just mentioned something about Rironi towards Chiromo, Nairobi, Waiyaki. What I wanted to know the mandate of Kenha with regard, you people have traveled outside Kenya. You have seen road improvement being handled. You have seen what you would call the diverts. The diverts are made motorable. I can assure you, travel this time as we speak, between Waiyaki, right from Nairobi Westlands here, go to Rironi, use those diverts. They are terrible. What does Kenha do? What authority they have? Can they, the contractor, make those roads passable? Just the other week, we spent 2 hours between Kino and Muguga. Rironi. 2 hours going to Western because of the divert, too narrow, too muddy, and then lot of potholes. What does Kenha, what authority they have to manage this? It is a mess. Something needs to be done. Thank you.
I have the middle microphone. Possession is 9/10 of the law. So can I proceed? Thank you very much. My question is really about the environment. In the presentation, I would have loved to hear about the environmental impact assessment. What is the baseline now, particularly on air quality? And then what will be the impact when all this is working? Presently, Nairobi is number 61 in the world in the pollution index. And in Africa, it is number 8
in the city pollution index. What will be the impact of this road? So out there, people are thinking engineers are only focused on designing for cars, but they don't protect. I want to second my professor here. This road does not have a cycling lane. It doesn't have, of course, pedestrian, but I don't think we need to worry about pedestrian on, well, you will defend your case. Personally, I would just want to talk about the pedestrians. So my question is, what is the environmental impact assessment of this road? What will be the impact on air quality? And what is the policy on transition to EVs, to electrical vehicles? I would be happy as a Nairobian if I heard that this road, which is going to be constructed in 3 years, will in 5 years only accept electrical vehicles to go on it, so that the pollution that we experience can be minimized. As a general question now on Kenya, you build your roads. Do you ever care to do a tree verge, work with Kenya Forest Services to put trees along all your roads? You know that when you have a child, you have to give them bumpers. A car produces noxious fumes that a tree will remove. What is the policy of Kenya on that whole matter of air pollution? Thank you very much.
Are you still taking more?
There's
Okay.
that gentleman there, and then we will come and take Engineer Christine. Just, yes, the one in the purple shirt.
Thank you very much. I'm Engineer Timothy Musion, and thank you, DG, for the wonderful presentation. Until you presented, I could only comment as a layperson, but now I am a bit more informed. Although my first question is a very basic one. Why will you design for 80 kph for an expressway? That is one. Then number two, just based on experience in other countries where PPPs have been implemented, the issue of durability, quality control during construction, just to make sure that when the term ends for operation, the contractor does not hand over something that is a shell. And these have been following, especially in China. In the housing sector, there has been, and there were problems, very many problems in such projects. We know that bridges are important structures that are designed for 120 years, but the contractor is only interested in it for the next 30 years or so. So thank you so much.
Christine, please bring the mic to Christine. Kindly, Christine, and then we will do another round. You will start with you.
Thank you very much for that very elaborate presentation. Mine is a very, very simple question. When Thika Superhighway was constructed, we had very many fatalities. What lessons have you learned from Thika Superhighway that you're bringing on board on your express road? And why am I asking this? In fact, the question I want to ask is, how safe is the express road? As we speak today, Mombasa Road, this section of the outer ring that has 31 fatalities. Then we have Thika Superhighway. Then we go to Wayaki Way. So what are the safety considerations? Because as much as you have the expressway, you still have your corridor, and pedestrians are being killed on this section of the road. So if you could tell us what are the safety considerations such that as the vehicles do the speeds of, 80 kilometers, I know on the service roads you'll say that the speed limit is 50 kilometers, and we know anyone being knocked at speeds of 30 kilometers per hour and above gets killed. Then what are we going to do about that? Thank you.
Let us have the responses from the panelists. That was a mouthful. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's glad to hear some of this feedback. It's also good for us, that good assurance that we are intimate with the project as an institute. Let me deal with the issue around, I think the question was asked by Mr. Jean Mutai in regards to air quality. Yes, if you look at the smog around Nairobi in the morning, we are fortunate to see this during the fast-going rainy season. You see a lot of gray smog, and you would think that we are a powerful, a careless industrial country emitting smoke. But if you compare that with the kind of pollution that you find in some of these recent economies, for us, it's not because of manufacturing, it's really because of motor fuel. The reason is that we import a lot of vehicles, as you know, our fleets and the market of vehicles that we have is such that at some level they already have inordinately too high emission than ordinarily would be allowed for the environment that we want to sustain. So it's true that we have that problem, as Mr. Mutai, engineer, has already said. But where does it come from? As I said, the skyline of Nairobi, in the morning or in the evening, you can actually see it and feel it. It comes from motor pollution. And why is it intense? We've carried out in some of our studies the air quality measurements in some of the busy junctions. And we find that the Northern Corridor Road through Nairobi and the major arterial roads coming from the city, like Ngong Road, Jogo Road, recently sections of highways that are busy in Western and towards Ongatarongai, where we are near standstill traffic. As you know, as engineers, where you have near standstill traffic situation, the emission is higher. That's the efficiency of engines. And so if we carry about 100,000 vehicles per day through some of the busiest junctions on the Northern Corridor, such as just outside Parliament, and all that is a parking lot, everyone is idling, you can imagine the contribution of motor pollution on Kenya's environment. And so if we can remove that, if we can address that by increasing the speeds, by making transit quicker, you don't need to have quantitative figures. You can imagine what will happen in terms of the gains, the benefits that you get by removing that. The policy on use of EV, that is an overall statewide policy, but we know that more and more EVs are coming on our roads. That's good for us. The issue is, do we encourage those ones who have EV to go in? I think perhaps there's a bigger macro situation that we have to look at, macro answer from a transport point of view, what they want to penalize. But I think what can be done is that we can agree that if you don't have a footprint in pollution, then you could have a rebate on maybe toll tariffs. So that can be built as we move forward in terms of the toll tariffs for the road. But I don't think we can actually outlaw non-EV vehicles onto the road because of the situation where we are. In terms of work with Kenya Forest Service, we already have an agreement with them to regreen some of the areas, especially where we also have a footprint. When we build roads and we remove forests, we want to replant. And indeed, in our environmental safeguards, we actually do plant trees along our roads. The areas which are not occupied by carriageways, by permanent structures, we always green them. And we have a very strong component in doing that and monitoring it. If you remember, one of our motto, or what I call our motto in Kenya is eyesight. Eyesight is, it means innovativeness, customer focus, innovativeness, customer focus, and we have also one we call the E stands for environmental stewardship. So every project that we do, if you read our website, you understand what that acronym means. Every project that we do has very strong environmental safeguard component that includes greenery and reinstatement of the environment. Then there was a question around speeds. This highway is about, I think, 46 to 50 kilometers from Westlands to Mlolongo. If you did 80 kilometers per hour, you'd do about 35 minutes, assuming you're going through without stopping. And if you did 100 kilometers per hour, as perhaps you want to have higher speeds, you do it in 27 or 28 minutes. So really, is that difference material, considering also that this highway also has junctions and it was not built as an expressway before. We are just trying to retrofit it to be an high-capacity highway. And so we remember that there are also other junctions which have to share this, the other facilities and customers who have to use it. So perhaps we could make do with a lower speed for the fact that we still have a good throughput and the time difference is not too material. You could miss your flight in 3 minutes, I agree, which is the difference in the times I've said. But if you start early and recognizing that we have a facility that works for us, given where we are coming from, I think it's not too much to pay in terms of time. Then there is the issue of accidents and the safety. Yes, we build safety. We actually separating this highway from the other traffic wherever possible so that we have good access control, good visibility, good traffic control facilities to make sure that we improve safety. And the safety is something that we inbuilt in all our designs, not just this one, but we address safety pre-construction and post-construction. I do hope that we've addressed your concerns. Thank you. Oh yeah, thank you very much. There is a comment about handback conditions. The contract has a clause on how the condition of the asset at the time when the concessionaire hands it back over to us at the end of 30 years. That means there will be an inspection and it will be rehabilitated. If there's need for an overlay, that will be done. And we monitor the pavement strength, the condition of the asset, and we ensure that before handing over, that is reinstated to a new condition. That we have a new life that will take us another several years before we need to rehabilitate. So that is a commitment that the concessionaire has to do. It's contractual. Thank you.
Okay, Professor Moya, question?
Thank you very much. Professor had 3 questions or 3 concerns. One of them is that the expressway will cut the road into 2, basically like separate the east and west side. That's one. And then issues to do with motorized NMT, non-motorized transport, and how will someone cross the elevated sections. Regarding the separation, yes, indeed, along the section that is abutting the university, the expressway will actually be elevated. What that means, we all know we're engineers, we'll be able actually to make use of the existing A8 as is. However, since plans are in high gear to also do the BRT, it means that there will also be BRT running, and some of the stations will just be right under the elevated areas or under the elevated carriageway. Now, what is going to happen is that arising from that, we're going to have specific points where pedestrians will be able to access or go under the expressway, or in some situations elevated so that they are able actually to cross over. And the studies are being done, as we had intimated earlier. A lot of detailed design is still ongoing, both for the expressway itself and for the BRT, still at the very, very early conceptual stages, and it's being coordinated by Namata. That is ongoing. Now, for the non-motorized traffic, once also the BRT comes, because remember, the expressway project itself will not be addressing the NMT. However, when we are now improving the corridor in totality, especially the existing A8, then that means plus the BRT. I think there were some pictures that were shown where you are having areas reserved for people to walk, and also there will be sections that are reserved for NMTs. So that is has been put in consideration and is being addressed robustly. I think I've answered the question unless there's some more clarification that is required.
Thank you. Then we can have Engineer Mushirwa take the Mokoya George question on James Gichoro Lironi.
Thank you. There was a question from Engineer Muhoya, and I quote that what is the mandate of Kenya, given that we are incurring a lot of delays around between James Gishuru and Rironi, and I agree, and I apologize. The situation is like this. We intend to achieve on that 26 kilometers to put in 6 lanes instead of the current 4. We intend to do this while leaving space for BRT between James Gishuru and Udhiru. We intend, and I had, I think, mention of the NMT. That road is going to have separate bicycle lanes. It's going to have wide, by wide I mean 2 or 2.5 meter wide pedestrian lanes separate from the bicycle lanes. Of course, with covered drains just for that added safety. And between Gitaru going forward, of course, this is where the southern bypass joins in, we'll be having a concrete pavement on the left, on the side as you're climbing, not on in the other direction. Now, of course, doing this in a constrained space is a challenge. Our diversions, sometimes we're able to work, maybe just, we're able to find a bit of space to work, but frequently we find that we are having to remove existing structures. And when we do that, we are using the slip roads, for example, and some of the service roads around as diversions, and sometimes they're posing a challenge, and sometimes they're actually flooding. There are 1 or 2 areas where they flood. Do we have solutions? Yes, we do, and we have been trying to implement them. First of all, our diversions are all supposed to be paved. I know there are 1 or 2 sections which were not paved. That is something that we have asked our service provider to address, so that they are always paved. In which case they will not deteriorate when it rains, for example, such as now. We also, of course, I said most of the problem is occurring where we are building structures. We have asked our service provider to take a maximum of 100 days for each structure. That is from the time he starts excavation up to doing the foundation, curing, and everything, up to opening, a maximum of 100 days so as to minimize that disruption. We have of course, as part of our safety improvement, we have asked for better signage. I know there have been some complaints that sometimes our signage has been a little bit confusing, so we have asked him to improve on that. And of course, as a very last resort, we are having to use some alternative roads. If possible, you can use the Southern Bypass or Limuru Road instead of coming to use between, for example, Gitaru and James Gishuru. So by and large, Engineer Muhoya, I can promise you that as the Christmas period ramps up, we are going to have better quality diversion from us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What he has said is true, that we can only apologize. And the reason as to why possibly that is not happening is that we needed to have resources to actually get the entire right of way. And what is happening is that we are working within the existing road, and you need to do the road there. But if we had actually acquired entirely, in which case we have actually engaged the National Commission, we have the awards, but resources have not been available to pay out, so that then we can have entire carriageway, and therefore we can be able to have maneuverability of the traffic easily, then has been the challenge. Having said that, I also want to answer the President's question, and I have said, particularly, let me pick this one, because he said he needed to appreciate our contribution from the chairman. And one of the issues that chairman or president has mentioned is what is this congestion? What the concession are we talking about? And then he also said this thing is being called expressway from Morongo to the other side. How is it assisting in between? Let me say one thing, that I mentioned this congestion is going to happen in two ways. One is that this expressway is actually increasing in the capacity of the road. We have 6 lanes now. We are adding another 4. So that one alone means we are reducing the congestion that are already there. 30% of the vehicles are going to go, and it is anticipated. It may not necessarily be 30%. It may be more or less. But there are vehicles that are going to get to this expressway, and therefore reduce the congestion. And I mentioned also, besides that, we're also doing BRT. BRT also removes very many vehicles. It will remove our matatus, it will remove passenger vehicles, because you find most of the passenger vehicles has one person or two. But then when you have a whole bus which can take over 100 or 80, then you expect that you're going to reduce congestion. And that is how it's going to happen. Then the other question, how is it serving other areas? I mentioned that it has 10 interchanges. And those interchanges are where you have exit and entry, meaning that you can actually get out in many of the areas. It's not just an issue of going through, but in an event that you wanted to go through, then you expect that you can spend very little time. And as he was mentioning, when you think of a speed of 60 kilometers per hour, it means 1 minute you are going 1 kilometer. So if it is 27 minutes, kilometers, you would require to spend 27 minutes. Things working out well. This is even 80 kilometers per hour. What does it mean then? You spend less than 27 minutes. So, in terms of if somebody who wants to actually cross through or go through, then it's going to be a very efficient load. Then there is an issue that you asked, and it was clarified by, at some stage, it was clarified by Engineer Mawasi. And this is the question of payment guarantee. As far as this project is concerned, government is not guaranteeing payment, because we are saying the contractor is taking the mud risk, that is a traffic risk, and therefore revenue risk. So there's no, whether if the contractor is not correct enough, that is his risk. If he corrects more, that is his advantage. And you actually pocket that money. But Kenya Revenue Authority will be there to find out that you have been able to receive revenue, and therefore we shall be able to pay. They will be able to pay corporate tax. That is our benefit. So that is how it works. Then finally, you asked supposing it was to have loss. When it comes to some of these projects, especially where a contractor will take revenue risk, or even ourselves, to accept that they take that risk, we must be sure that we are not going to get to ourselves whereby the project fails, and therefore we are left with a project which cannot be able to perform. I think the experience we had with the Kenya Railways where it failed, it's an experience which nobody would want to encounter, where you hand over something to a private sector, then it fails in their heart. So we interrogated very, very clear, very correct or their model, financial model, the proposal of tolling, to make sure that at least we know from the beginning that it's very unlikely that this one is not going to work. Because even as they are talking about 30% of the 77,000 vehicles per day, they may take even much more, and therefore more revenue. So we don't anticipate that to happen, and as a client, we would not want that to happen, and therefore that's the reason why we interrogate the feasibility study and also their commercial proposal. So I think with that, I would want to get the further clarifications, and if we are through, then we can say not good evening now, but good night.
We've noted that the concentration levels are very, very low. So for that reason, we'll only accept one question from the purple gentleman. The man in a purple, engineer O. And then the rest of the interactions you'll do around the cash bar.
Thank you so much.
We'll leave it there.
Thank you so much, the panelists, everyone who has presented. My name is Uchieng. I'd actually posted around 300 questions yesterday to the engineering fraternity on this project. I've just landed into the country, but I decided to come and listen because listening sometimes is better than seeing. Yes. I have one question. The numbers, because transportation or traffic engineering is about numbers. What I've gathered today seems that we are either underestimating or we are not getting the numbers right. This is the thing. You talked about 75,000 vehicles per day. A third of it is 25,000 vehicles. 25,000 vehicles. So this is your working number per day. So 25,000 vehicles, this is unidirectional. I'm assuming that these are the vehicles that will be coming from Lolongo towards Nairobi. If you talk about these numbers translate to around 1,500 or 700 vehicles per hour. Okay? And we have 2 lanes. So we are talking about 800 vehicles per hour per lane. That's a local street. That should not be an expressway. That's a local street. That's the capacity of a local street. We need to think of how do we package this project so that the general public can appreciate it. Because the numbers here do not make sense for an expressway. And to make it worse, you're talking about 80 kilometers per hour is the design speed. What is the posted speed limit then? It's around 60. So what's the essence of an expressway when the design speed is 80 kilometers per hour? It doesn't make sense. The other thing, the payment back period. With 25,000 vehicles per hour, I'm telling you, most of us here will die. With us leaving the mess, we will not be able to pay back in 30 years with the numbers. So guys, let's be serious about the numbers. Let's look at these numbers again, because this is a game changer, as you've said. Numbers matter in any PPP project. Thank you.
So, thank you so much, Engineer Ching. As he mentioned, he actually posted, is it today or yesterday? I think it's yesterday. He posted several questions. And I'm very happy that most of them, possibly as we were trying to explain, have been answered. Possibly the only one that is having challenge is the issue of numbers. And I would request Engineer Mawasi to elaborate more on these numbers so that then we can be able to get some clearance on the way we have looked at issues.
Thank you very much. And indeed, the question list was quite elaborate and very detailed. In fact, this is just probably just a snippet of the list of questions that were posted. Now, you've said that 75,000 vehicles translate to about 800 vehicles per hour, and this doesn't qualify to be an expressway because of the numbers. Ideally, it should just be a street. A local street. Yeah, but yes, the way we see it, it may be that is what the numbers show, but the congestion clearly shows that something needs to be done. Because if you look at the congestion and the economic impact of that congestion, a conservative figure is about 50 million shillings per day, roughly working to about 20 billion per annum. So this street actually is causing a serious impact to the economy. And therefore there is a serious need and a very urgent need to think how to decongest and correct that situation. Now, again, the numbers, according to what you've indicated, the 25,000, with 25,000 vehicles, it will not be able to pay itself. The model that was presented, it actually is able to pay itself. And the reason why it's able to pay itself is because the total weighted average cost of the finance is actually pretty low, below what we normally see in market standards. So I would want to attribute, when you start using typical PPPs, which we've come across, where people are asking for significant returns, more or less like what you see in the stock exchange, yes, the numbers will not be able to add up. But in this particular case, that is not the scenario. And to cap it all, the beauty of it, this is a pure PPP. And the concessionaire is taking a full demand risk, and correspondingly is taking a full revenue risk. What that means is that if he has made some, if it happens that the willingness to pay is not working as per the surveys, then the revenues drop out, then he'll have to take the hit until the number builds up, or he may be forced maybe to even to reduce the tolls so that he can attract more.
I think from the numbers, and he has mentioned, most of these PPPs expect internal rate of return as from 18% to 22-25%. This one is actually 7.8%, and possibly, as he lightly said, the kind of return in terms of the traffic is lower than most of them. But it doesn't mean that it will not really be able to pay itself, because we expect that if it is efficient, because of the fact that the availability is there for the service, then we would expect that it will be able to attract many more people maybe more than what we are talking about, and therefore be able to repay itself. Finally, I think let Engineer Mushirwa also say something about it.
Yeah, thank you. I think I did get the useful feedback from Engineer Chams, and I think it is true. If you take the calculation, vehicles per day, a certain percentage, divide by the number of hours in a day, yeah, you will get around about this figure. But of course, don't forget that the cyclical nature of traffic in any given day, the rush hour phenomenon, such that of course you'll find that maybe in the hours of darkness or around this time, you have very little, but then between 6 o'clock and 9, you get much higher traffic, which then now you need the capacity of all the lanes that you can possibly get. Let me also just mention the importance of this concessionaire being to provide a viable value proposition to the road users. Don't forget, there is a free alternative just down there, 6 meters from the viaduct. If it does not offer you something worthwhile, worth paying whatever he's going to be paying for, you just move. And you know, for example, at this time of the night, I wouldn't use that concessionaire you're hearing. I wouldn't use it at all, unless of course he really lowers the rate and the place, you know, it's very safe, it's very well lit, and so on. In which case, I would consider that. So he has to offer a concrete value proposition in order to make his investment viable. Thank you.
Thank you. With the mechanics of the financial model that have been explained by my able colleague, I think we can understand. If we are lucky that we have a cheap source of money, I think we should take advantage of it. If you look at it from the normal lender's point of view, commercial banks and other providers, yes, you will be biased to say, as Engineer Chams says, that it may not pay. But this, we understand, will pay. Let me go back to the issue of speed. I alluded to it. If we were designing this as an expressway to take us to Nakuru or to Mombasa, certainly we're not going to do 80 kilometers per hour. But we have an urban toll road with the restraints and restrictions that comes with it, because we have already an asset that is already built, and there's a development around the city already as there. 80 kilometers per hour is okay for the transport solution that we want to provide. Thank you.
So thank you so much, and we are grateful for your contribution. So I would want to return this mic to our colleagues, then they can be able to assist us conclude.
We've come to the end of this session. Let's give them another hearty clap. And if there are any questions that have not been asked, we ask you to send the questions to the Secretariat, IEK, for consolidation, and then we'll find a way of responding to them. Thank you very much for your patience.
Tuwapigie makofi wakiondoka hapo. Very nice interactive session there. Thank you our panelists and the moderators. Asanteni sana. We are about to wind up, and we really appreciate your patience. I moderate many functions, or rather I MC at many functions, but when I'm MCing at a function of professionals, including engineers and the others, it really goes well, and you really concentrate, and you have a purpose why you came here. And I feel great when it ends, like I can see almost everyone is here. This was an interactive session, and thank you for the live presentations there. But allow me to just summarize on the digital platform, and thank you Kenha digital team, Chams Media digital team, IEK, and the other organizations that were supporting this digital campaign. On YouTube, which is Chams Media YouTube, Chams Media TV, we had 41 comments, so people are following live. The good thing then, Engineer Matalanga, you'll have access, it's gonna still be on YouTube, so anyone can go and still, I think, play from the beginning and watch, is it? Yeah, so you'll follow the comments. If there was no one rapporteuring, then you can still access the entire session and summarize. And then we had 9 questions. So as you are asking questions here, others were asking live. It's unfortunate we didn't have time to read some of the questions so that they can also see you people answering them from wherever they are. This one was a question from, I think, as far as Eldama Ravine. Now, in terms of analysis, we trended at some point at number 4. You know what trending means? It means it's a topic people are discussing. And you can imagine it's a Friday, and I think there is so much politics. And amid the bulletins at 9, that you are able to be at number 4 and then at 5 at some point. Remember, the hashtag was Nairobi Expressway. Nairobi Expressway. If you you click that hashtag, you can monitor and follow the conversations. Which one was the most active Twitter handle? Chams Media. We also had Kenha, IEK, and so on. You'll be surprised. The other popular contributors was a trip. We call them trips, with a handle called Tusker. Cold Tusker contributed quite a lot. Vitalis Omboi and Daniel Korir, I asked him where he comes from or where he's tweeting from online. He said he's in Eldama Ravine. So that's an analysis of the reactions on Twitter. We had over 500 tweets. And you want to clap? Let's clap for ourselves. Yeah. Over 500 tweets. And 86 people have contributed to the conversation. These are some of the active ones. I think it picked 86, but you may find you tweeted once, maybe it didn't pick you. So we will be going into the next session of vote of thanks, but before that, Engineer Matalanga has something to say. But let me wind up by saying I'm also a partner. I've interacted a lot with professionals in various sectors, in the built industry, transport, and so on. And next week on my show, the Chamada Report, I'm looking at the rising upper hill. And I've had interviews with various professionals. I've personally learned a lot. So you'll be watching this on Thursday at 8:30 p.m. I hope I'm not marketing myself too much. But it's because I'm a partner. I've done the Northern Collector Tunnel. I spent time with the engineers here, and there is a whole documentary that was done there. This is independent production, and I'm a CEO, I'm also a president like you, of Chams Media. So my content is independently produced. We do it and give it complete to KTN. I have a team. I'm not a reporter of KTN, and I've gotten a lot of fulfillment and networks by going out of the newsroom, quitting the newsroom. I resigned from Citizen about 5 years ago, and I'm able to do content with partners like you. So we really appreciate, and we can take this country quite forward. Thank you so much. I didn't mean to market myself, but Engineer Matalag, thanks.
Thank you very much, Alex. You know, Alex marketed also our conference, and even the post-conference. He hasn't said there was a Chamada show on the conference. Thank you very much. And I'm sure, Ken, you will have a Chamada show on this one. I just wanted to say, recognize Engineer Hamisi Butich. Those of you who don't know, Engineer Hamisi Butich, in the last Kibra elections, he was a candidate. And even before Kibra, he was a candidate in Ikolomani. And in Ikolomani, he came number 2. So he has engineers, we need to get hold of our destiny, and unless we go on the table where these decisions that run our country, like Parliament, are made, we shall always be led by people who don't know what we are supposed to do. So we appreciate and thank Hamisi Butichi for taking that bold decision. You need to start early, and we shall all come up to support you. I'm also seeing engineer from Mati Water. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. These sessions of having parastatals sponsor the President's Dinner were started by Ati Water. And it was the first when we did the tunnel, demystifying the tunnel, very successful, and I think that's how Ken have picked it up. We hope the other groups that are here and winning, we have the whole of next year. Please talk to the Secretariat that we put you on our schedule. I also did not acknowledge the Vice Chairman of Gamma, who is the first chair of ASEC, Engineer James Mwangi. We are very happy to have you. So, no, now you're the chairman of Gamma. Gamma Gamma is it's the African arm of feeding conditions. So you are there, Kenha, you are using feeding conditions everywhere. Now we have someone among us whom the contractors who are looking at us, in case they make a mistake, we have someone who can interpret those conditions so well for us, so that we don't have our graduate engineers complaining about this. Ladies and gentlemen, I also did not mention Engineer James Wangi is also the chairman of Muhandisi Circle. And he has a lot of money to lend to engineers who are members of that circle. From next year, Muhandisi Circle is going to be managed under the CEO of IEK, and therefore we expect a lot of good things that are going to happen. I'll now hand you over to Alex to take us through.
Thank you. Clap for everyone who has been mentioned. Now, I'm told I talk too fast, very, very fast. I have no opportunity to correct because we are winding up. But this is to also respond to a question someone has asked. Again, just allow me, finally, kindly. How do I subscribe to the content of Chams Media? It's easy. If you go to Chams Media TV, just click subscribe and turn the notification button on. That question was asked and I have to respond to. Now time for vote of thanks. And after vote of thanks, prepare, Engineer Anthony Sang, prepare to give us the final prayer. But the vote of thanks is by Ruben Kosgei, immediate past president of IEK. Karibu Ruben. Tumpigie makofi akikuja.
Thank you very much. I've been ambushed to give a vote of thanks, and I'm very happy to do that. As you have been told, I was the first president under the new constitution, so I was the first president of the Institution of Engineers of Kenya, and the current president was my functions and conference chairman. So the roles went reversed, and now I'm the subject. Thank you very much. I'm amazed and happy. So the first vote of thanks goes to Kenya, because you have answered most of our questions. When we came here, we were wondering, what is this expressway? How will it help us? People passing through town, how will they decongest the city, as the president said? But you have answered most of our questions, and I think from now we will say IEK is proud to be associated with Kenya. That is the logo now. Secondly, the vote of thanks goes to Institution of Engineers of Kenya, the president, the two vice presidents, and the new team who have really taken us to a higher level, a very active level, where people can sit in a function until late as now. Despite even act of law on the road, people are concentrating and they are not talking to themselves. That is a plus to the current council. So vote of thanks, give them a clap. That vote of vote. This room is air conditioned and the food was good. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. So give a clap to KICC. The master of ceremony, Alex Chamwanda, has taken us also to a new level. He helped us at the conference, and I hope he will continue helping us in other functions. So give a IEK reduced the conference fee, and it enabled us, all of us, to come. Except next time, organize the parking, because we are being charged about 500 shillings for the parking. So give a clap, let's give a clap to ourselves. Let's give a clap to anybody else I'd have forgotten. The eminent engineers. I'm proud to be an eminent engineer. Eminent engineers are those who finish between below 78. Maybe they can stand, and then you can see them. I can see Engineer Runji there. Oh, he's gone. Professor Mutai, Julia's there. Chiriba, you're not in that group, and Rosemary. Let's give a clap to the eminent engineers. And anybody else I have forgotten to mention their names, we really appreciate what you have done for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, engineers. Kosgei, now it's time for prayers, and I think as I call upon Engineer Anthony Sang, the chair of Advocacy, Publicity, and Journal Committee, I think let's rise up in respect and have a final prayer.
Okay, let us believe and pray. Almighty God and everlasting Father, we are forever grateful for this opportunity to gather as engineers to discuss pertinent issues toward the development of our nation. We are forever grateful for the project that is being done by Kenha on the expressway. And having clarified many issues, we pray that as they plan, all things will work for the good of our nation as we take our responsibility as engineers to provide solutions to the many challenges that development brings. And for this very reason, we are forever grateful to have learned and to contribute towards the growth of this country. And as we've enjoyed the meal, the sumptuous dinner, and as we want to prepare to leave for our respective homes, we pray for journey mercies. And as we continue as a fraternity, as a community of engineers, and as an institution, we pray that God will give your blessing to each and every one of us. As we part, send us off with your love and protection. For we pray this, believing and trusting in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you.
Amen.